Happy Royal Rumble week, folks, and welcome back to WrestleRant, where every single Tuesday right here on the show, I, Graham Giuseppe Matthews, break down all the pay-per-views that I watch on the WWE Network as well as on the Global Wrestling Network. Of course, with the 2018 Royal Rumble approaching, today we are talking the 2017 installment of the WWE Royal Rumble event. And as I have said multiple times in the last month here on the channel, I will be in attendance for this year's installment of the Rumble coming up this Sunday, my first ever Rumble experience. I've been in attendance for WrestleMania, SummerSlam twice, a few other pay-per-views, but never the Royal Rumble. So I'm looking forward to being in attendance for that this coming Sunday. That being said, all week long right here on the channel, I will have Rumble content going up, including today's WrestleRant Royal Rumble 2017 pay-per-view review. On Wednesday, hashtag AskGSM, previewing the Royal Rumble this upcoming Sunday. Thursday, WrestleRant radio excerpts, previewing the Royal Rumble again, including predictions for many of the top matches, if not all the matches, on the pay-per-view. On Friday, I'll be talking about on the random video blog 5 people I would love to see a surprise entrance in the men's and women's Royal Rumble matches, respectively. On Saturday and on Sunday, I will have hopefully my takeover and Royal Rumble previews, my recaps, the quick, the lineup pay-per-view previews that I do before every Big 4 pay-per-view, or I guess Big 5 now, including Money in the Bank. But anyway, we'll have those up this coming weekend as well. And that about will do it, including live reactions and videos that I will take at the event itself that will hopefully be up at some point next week. So with all that being said, guys, let's get down to what you guys came here to hear, my 2017 review of the Royal Rumble. So, of course, 1 year removed from the event. I had not watched the pay-per-view back since it aired about a year ago. And in retrospect, was a pretty good show. I mean, watching it back, and even at the time, I kind of knew it was a very good pay-per-view. The undercard, I thought, was excellent. And the Rumble match, although it wasn't the outcome I wanted, it could have been worse, and it was not the worst Rumble that I've ever seen, especially in recent years when we've been treated to a lot of bad Rumbles. Now, that being said, I enjoyed the 2016 Rumble match more, maybe the pay-per-view more. I thought the undercard of the last few Rumbles, the last 2 Rumbles have been very, very good. Like I said, including this one and the 2016 Rumble. But start to finish, I would say still a great pay-per-view. And again, in retrospect, thinking about 2017 on the whole for WWE, probably one of, if not the best pay-per-view overall for the company. Again, the finish kind of soured some people on the show, but I thought overall was a great pay-per-view for the company. So real quick, the kickoff matches, which are not included in the pay-per-view, the pay-per-view on the WWE Network. It is separate on the kickoff section. If you want to watch that separate, you can. The whole show was 6 hours in total, which to me is kind of ridiculous. I get it for this year, and I'm not just saying that because I'll be there. I get it when you got 2 Rumble matches and both include 30 participants. That makes sense. But for a show like this, I mean, they made good use of the time. It was actually kind of surprising because they had only 5 matches on the main card. 5 matches. And a lot of them got great time, including the Rumble, obviously, which always goes over an hour anyway. But the Rumble got very good time, per usual. And the undercard, because it was so long, most of the matches, if not all the matches, all of them went over 10 minutes. Some of them 15, some of them 20, which was really cool to see. Again, real quick, the kickoff matches. We had Naomi, Becky Lynch, and Nikki Bella beating Alexa Bliss, Mickie James, and Natalya in 6-woman tag team action. Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson beat Cesaro and Sheamus in a rare kickoff title change to win the Raw Tag Team titles. 2 referees were appointed to the matchup after the controversy that ensued during their Raw match a few weeks earlier, so we had new Raw Tag Team champions in that match. And Nia Jax quickly squashing Sasha Banks. So none of the matches were great, but obviously with the Raw Tag Team titles changing hands, it was newsworthy for that alone. The pay-per-view itself kicked off with the Raw Women's Championship match. Charlotte Flair defending the gold against Bayley in a very, very good match. I think the match they had on Raw was a bit better. This one was clunky in spots, but I still thought it was a great match, again, given good time. And again, I love doing these pay-per-view reviews a year later for those those retrospective elements to it, and especially looking at both women here. I mean, it really stood out to me watching this match back how great of a heel Charlotte Flair is. And I know she's popular, which is why they turned her babyface. She still gets good reactions, but the way that she talked down to Bayley here, and mind you, the feud coming into the show really was not that good. They had a few promos that were kind of sort of shit, and a few other things about the feud that weren't really that great at all. But their chemistry in the ring really spoke for itself. They had great matches in NXT. Their match here was also very, very good. Again, not their best encounter on the main roster, but still great, especially for a pay-per-view match. But again, going back to Charlotte real quick, I really thought she excelled here as a heel, talking down to Bayley, saying this is why people look down on you as a loser. You're just like all of them, pointing out to people in the crowd. It was awesome. And Bayley, as the perennial underdog, also was awesome here. And again, you can say a lot of things about Bayley's main roster run, even before this. And it's not to say that she was used perfectly up to this point. She came into the company, on the main roster that is, with a huge buzz, a lot of buzz surrounding her. The reactions kind of died down a little bit. She really wasn't doing a whole ton in the fall of 2016, kind of on the outside looking into the Raw Women's Championship picture. It was all about Charlotte and Sasha for a long, long time. And I should mention, too, up to this point, Charlotte Flair was still undefeated on pay-per-view. She was like 15 or 16-0 on pay-per-view up to this point. I think 16-0. I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember, but it was some ridiculous number like that, which is super impressive for someone coming into the company. And again, very, very good match. But by this point, people had still not given up on Bayley, including management. She lost here, but she looked great in defeat. Charlotte Flair hitting her bow down to the queen, or whatever it's called now, on the ring apron, rolling Bayley into the ring, scoring the victory to retain her championship. So Bayley looking very credible in defeat. People went nuts for her here. Charlotte Flair getting great heat, and the feud would continue with Bayley winning the championship for some random reason on Raw before the pay-per-view, before the Fastlane event, where they would have a rematch that was not all that good at all. So I'll talk about that match and that awful, awful, awful pay-per-view in a few months here on WrestleRant. But as for this match, it was a great way to open the show. I thought they worked very well together, and it was the right result at this point in time. After that, for the Universal Championship, again, with a show for only 5 matches on it, they had to kind of put the world title matches on first, obviously with the Royal Rumble main eventing the show. For the Universal Championship, a no disqualification match between Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns, with Chris Jericho, the then United States Champion, hanging high above the ring in a shark cage, which I thought going into the show was a bit silly, unnecessary, because it doesn't, really prevent interference when you really think about it. I think Enzo at the 2017 Royal Rumble, or the 2017 SummerSlam pay-per-view, a few months later, escaped the cage. Some awful shit like that, which was easily the worst shark cage match I've seen in recent history. And they've done 3. They did one at NXT TakeOver Toronto, which I talked about a little while ago here on the channel, about 2 months or so ago. They had this one and the Enzo one a few months after that. They might have had a 4th one. I don't know. They're trying to sell toys. I get it. Here, it kind of sort of worked. Jericho still got involved by throwing down, was it brass knuckles or something like that to Kevin Owens? He didn't win with it. It was a great spot because Jericho tossed down the knuckles, the brass knucks to KO or whatever it was, and KO hit Rowan with it, and it did not score him the victory. And realistically, it should have. It didn't. Whatever, but still a great spot that people went nuts for. The whole match was really, really good. They got over 20 minutes, and I really, truly do think the no DQ stipulation helped them immensely here. I talked about the Roadblock End of the Line pay-per-view late last year here on the channel. That pay-per-view, that main event, was fucking atrocious. It wasn't really as much of a bad match. I shouldn't say that. It really wasn't as much of a bad match as it was boring. A very boring main event between KO and Roman. And you knew KO was retaining the title, which, again, predictability, not always a bad thing. But in that case, it was like it dragged on and on for like fucking 20 minutes before Jericho caused the DQ. So the fact this was a no DQ match made a hell of a lot more sense. So really love this match. They brought the fight to one another. For those of you who are not yet sold on Roman Reigns, I get it, but you can't say the guy can't go. He may not be a fucking Shawn Michaels or a Bret Hart in the ring with the stuff he can do, but the guy has had great match after great match after great match. Not to say he hasn't had some stinkers along the way. The WrestleMania match with The Undertaker was not great. Neither was the Triple H one. But this match was great, and I thought they worked wonderfully together, made great use, excellent use of that no DQ stipulation, with Jericho only really getting involved in that one spot. Beyond that, he was an afterthought, which was great, hanging high above the ring in the shark cage. In the end, and I was really surprised here because I truly did think Roman Reigns was winning the Universal Championship on the show. So anyway, Roman Reigns ends up losing the match as a result of interference from Braun Strowman. So we still get interference, but from a surprise opponent in Braun Strowman, which would kick off their very lengthy feud throughout their pretty much the remainder of 2017 in WWE. Braun putting Roman through a table, KO capitalizes, still your Universal Champion. Of course, really only delaying the inevitable. Kevin Owens was never going to walk into WrestleMania with the championship. I think at one point it was pitched to do KO and Jericho for the belt of Mania, but it had been pretty obvious since the moment Goldberg announced his entry into the Rumble match that he was sticking around for a while and that they were doing Goldberg and Brock for the belt at WrestleMania. So KO's reign would only last about a little over a month before dropping it to Goldberg at that pay-per-view, which again, I'll talk about my Fastlane review in about a month or so here on the channel. So anyway, great match from Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. Two guys who have had good chemistry in the past, but their recent Raw encounters at that point were kind of boring and very formulaic, so I appreciated the fact they went outside the box with their no DQ match, putting together one of the better matches in WWE in 2017. After that, for the Cruiserweight Championship, we had Neville taking on Rich Swann, who was the then champion, coming into the show. Neville, what a resurgence. I mean, the guy came back at Roadblock, attacked the shit out of Rich Swann and TJP, laying out both guys after Swann had defeated Brian Kendrick, and TJP in a triple threat match. Neville comes back, lays out all the baby faces, and immediately sets his sights on the Cruiserweight Championship. Now, was the guy better than the Cruiserweight division? Absolutely, which is apparently his argument for not coming back to the company. He's still signed to WWE as of right now, but I'm not sure how long that's going to last. They don't want to grant him his release, apparently. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but anyway, the real reason why Neville was in the Cruiserweight division was because they had nothing else for him in the heavyweights. He belonged in the heavyweights, but they had nothing going for the guy. Doing a whole lot of nothing for many, many, many months. Not only in 2016, he was out for a few months in 2016. The latter half, he did nothing. 2015 even, he did a whole lot of fucking nothing when he got called up to the main roster, and the guy's a lot better than that. So at least he was allowed to excel in the Cruiserweight division with fellow great wrestlers. I love the story they told here. Neville really just wasting no time in targeting the top dog in Rich Swann, two guys that also had history from Japan. They played upon that too. They touched upon that in the pre-match video package, which I thought was great. And I was shocked when I watched this. I'm like, did this match actually get a video package? And the match was good too. The crowd was quiet, which was whatever. I forgot to tell you too, the event emanated from the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. So really kind of giving you a feel for the atmosphere that was in the air that night at the Royal Rumble, 20 years removed from the event emanating from that very same arena at the Royal Rumble 1997 installment. But anyway, so the crowd was kind of quiet for the match, which was understandable. The Cruiserweight division was not exactly lighting the world on fire coming into 2017. But although the match was still very, very good, Neville, the guy as good of a babyface as he was able to ditch a lot of that high-flying stuff out of it. He was able to take it out of his repertoire, turning into a heel in 2017. And then get over a fucking superplex as a finisher. He got that move over as a realistic finisher. So when Rich Swann kicked out of it here, it was kind of like a cool moment. Like, oh, wow, he actually kicked out of it. Because he had beaten guys like guys like TJP and Lince Dorado with that very same move on like 205 Live and stuff like that. So when Neville won this match, or nearly won the match with that superplex, it was kind of a cool moment. He immediately followed that up, though, with the Rings of Saturn, or whatever he called it. I don't think he ever really had a name for the move, did he? Anyway, so he locked in the submission maneuver on Rich Swann, and he had it locked in. Swann wasn't tapping, and he was holding on, and Neville's like, give me my crown, or my title, whatever it was he had said. I think he said crown. I couldn't make it out exactly. So when he says crown, or that last word that he says, he really wrenches it in and just rips Swann apart. Not literally, of course, figuratively. And when he does that, Swann immediately taps out. It was a great moment. I thought it was really, really well done. And it was those little details of the Neville heel character that made him such a treat to watch in 2017. And the matches themselves, too, were very, very good. This match, I thought, was excellent. The Raw match might have been a bit more exciting in Chicago. I think it was in Chicago in early March. Swann got hurt after this. I don't know if it was in this match or after the match or whatever. They couldn't do the rematch of the Fastlane pay-per-view. That match was instead given to Jack Gallagher, which was also excellent. One of the few bright spots of that pay-per-view. Anyway, I thought they worked very well together in this matchup, and Neville would go on to have great matches with pretty much everyone in the division for as long as he was there, with Swann, Gallagher, Austin Aries, Akira Tozawa, maybe not so much Enzo, but everyone else, though, had pretty much had great matches with Neville in 2017 in the Cruiserweight division. So Neville wouldn't make 205 Live must-see by any means. He made the show more bearable, and without him, the show is pretty much missable, forgettable, a whole lot of nothing. But still, I think Neville did a lot to make people care about that Cruiserweight division last year. Not to say that people gave a lot of shits about that division in 2017, but they cared more than they would have without him in that Cruiserweight division. So again, the fact they got a video package, they had a good story, the in-ring action was very good. Again, not flippity-doo-dahs, not exactly what they could have done together, which they kind of more or less did in their Raw rematch in March a few months later. But still, a very good match and one of the more memorable Cruiserweight matches, in my opinion, that led to Neville scoring the victory and kicking off his lengthy reign as the king of the Cruiserweights. Awful accent there, I know. And his reign as the Cruiserweight champion. After that, another excellent match for the WWE Championship, AJ Styles defending against John Cena. So you talk about stories here. These guys had two previous matches, and the video package was great too. The SummerSlam match still holds my favorite video package, my favorite promo for a match in recent WWE history. But the one for this match was also very good. So, again, you talk about stories. They had two prior encounters at Money in the Bank 2016 and SummerSlam 2016. Both bouts won by AJ Styles. And I talked about it in my SummerSlam review. I loved the story arc that they went with this feud. So Styles won the first match, albeit with help from Gallows and Anderson. And it was a matter of, can AJ win by himself? And it seemed very likely that he couldn't, which is why I thought Cena was a shoo-in to win that match at SummerSlam. So Cena won a match at Battleground, a six-man tag team match, with Enzo and Cass beating Styles and the rest of the club, pinning AJ Styles, but he still could not beat him one-on-one. So they had the rematch at SummerSlam, which was, I still think, their best match together. This match was, WWE said it was their match of the year for the main roster. I think their match overall in 2017. I wouldn't agree with that. I would say it was Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. But I'm not going to argue with you for saying it was the match of the year. It brings a smile to my face because I really love this feud. I'm not sure if it was the best match, though. I still think they had better matches. I still think it was better than the Money in the Bank match, but not as good as the SummerSlam match. So anyway, the SummerSlam match was won by Styles. Clean. In the middle of the ring. Clean. No strings attached. Cena wasn't hurt. There was no interference. No nothing. No stipulations. A straight-up singles win over John Cena. Then he went on to become WWE Champion, a reign that was uninterrupted till Cena came back. I mean, he actually beat Cena in that three-way with Dean Ambrose at the No Mercy show a few months before this. So Cena comes back, sets his sight on the WWE title, and they rekindle their feud in time for the big pay-per-view. So I kind of figured Cena was going to win. Part of me hoped Styles would retain. Obviously not the case. But still, an awesome match. And I know people would say it was kind of like their best of type of matchup where they... And I can't be hypocritical here either. I've always been very critical of the Mania 25 match, the main event with Triple H and Orton, because they hit their finishers like fucking 3 or 4 minutes in. And Cena did here too. He hit like an AA on AJ like 5 or 10 minutes in. It's like, dude, we know you're not going to win with that move 5 or 10 minutes in, let alone one AA. When Styles kicked out of it, I really like what they did here too. So with the finish, the whole match was great. So you get to the finish though, with AJ kicking out of another AA, a super AA, whatever you want to call it, attitude adjustment, off the top rope, which he also did at SummerSlam. Maybe people forgot about that. I don't know. There was a big reaction when he kicked out though. So Styles, he hits a Styles Clash, I think. I'm not sure if he pinned him. I don't think he did, because that's not what he did at SummerSlam. At SummerSlam, he also did not pin him after the Styles Clash. And then he went for the Phenomenal Forearm, he hit it, and he won the match. Here at the Rumble, I think he hit the Styles Clash, went for the phenomenal forearm, but Cena picks him up off the rope. He runs over to him, takes him off the rope, hits another AA, so the third one of the match, and then immediately rolls into a triple power bomb. I was gonna say a fourth attitude adjustment, and it was an awesome way to protect AJ because it wasn't like he fell to a third AA. He fell to 4 AAs only after taking 2 back-to-back, which had been pretty much unprecedented up to that point. So I thought that was very well done. I super enjoyed that. And it protected AJ in defeat, not making him look like a loser because he fell to 1 attitude adjustment, whatever. That was awesome. I really, really enjoyed that. The whole match was outstanding. And in the end, John Cena becoming a 16-time world champion, thus tying the record of Ric Flair by WWE's standards, records, whatever. So making history in the process. His reign lasted all 2 weeks before dropping it at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view 2 weeks later. Whatever, but the moment itself was great. You had Little Nate in there, Charles Robinson serving as the referee for the match, so a cool little moment there. Nice attention to detail. But easily, definitely the best WWE title match all year in 2017. Like, not even close. Obviously eclipses anything that Jinder Mahal did with that belt, or Orton and Wyatt in 2017 in WWE. But still, a phenomenal match, pun intended. And I love how these two have not yet faced off since then. They did tease a one-off match on SmackDown for like the United States Championship, like over the summer, I think. But they never went through with it, so it never happened. I do like that their only 3 matches in WWE have been on pay-per-view, and the story they told was nothing short of sensational. So I love this a lot. Then we get to the Rumble match itself. So I'm going to try to break this down here by, per entrant. Again, not, in my opinion, as strong as the 2016 Rumble, but this was by no means the worst Rumble in a long time. Easily an improvement over the 2014 and 2015 Rumbles. 2013, I'd have to go back and watch it to really compare it, but I thought this was a pretty good Rumble overall. So you had Big Cass and Chris Jericho kicking it off. Jericho ended up lasting over an hour in the match, and even like 5 or 10 minutes in, we were told by the commentators that he had broken the record of Triple H for longest time spent consecutively in a Royal Rumble match, which is awesome. So he spent a majority of the match on the outside. He came back, in the ring towards the end. So not exactly an amazing outing, but kind of copying Roman Reigns from the year prior. But it worked for Jericho because the guy was a heel. That's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to spend a majority of the match on the outside. He's not supposed to be in there for the full time. Roman Reigns looked like a fucking chump for leaving and then coming back in the 2016 Rumble. Really not all that impressive. So yeah, Kalisto come in, Mojo Rawley, nothing all that impressive. We did kind of get a surprise entrance of sorts with Jack Gallagher. The crowd got a kick out of it. He was really kind of the comic relief, and it was well done, but he lasted all of 3 minutes before getting tossed up by Mark Henry. He was the first one gone, I believe, was Jack Gallagher. So showing us that we can get some sort of interaction between the heavyweights and the cruiserweights, which has not happened since, but it did happen here. I mean, it's happened a few times, but on very forgettable occasions. So Mark Henry, like I said, I think he came back here for the first time in like over a month in his home state of Texas, getting a nice reaction. Only lasted a few minutes, but it was cool to see Mark Henry. I think he only wrestled maybe a match or two after this. I know he faced Braun Strowman like in February or March or something. I think in February. Then he wrestled the WrestleMania in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and that was it. He has not wrestled since, which kind of surprised me. I could have sworn he's wrestled the match since then, but I looked up in his win-loss record while watching the show upon seeing Henry, and I realized, like, oh shit, this guy has not wrestled for real since WrestleMania, which is pretty crazy. So anyway, Braun Strowman was out at number 7, tossing out everyone in sight, including Big Cass. He tossed out Kalisto, Mojo Rawley, Mark Henry. The guy was on fucking fire here. He tossed out Big Show, who came out at number 9. Sami Zayn out at number 8. So this was the first really cool story of the match because Strowman and Sami had kind of a story coming into the Rumble with Sami constantly standing up to Braun Strowman. They had their roadblock match. They had a last man standing match on Raw a few weeks prior to the pay-per-view. And Strowman came out on top pretty much every single time. So Sammy had something to prove here to Braun Strowman. Immediately taking the fight to him, they're going at it. Out at number 10, obviously, had to be Ty Dillinger. A lot of talk about this for months leading up to the pay-per-view. I think a lot of people would have been pissed if it didn't happen. It did. He got a good reaction coming off his loss to Eric Young at the NXT TakeOver San Antonio show the night before, which I talked about last week right here on WrestleRant. Cheap plug. If you haven't already checked it out, please do so. Anyway, so Dillinger out at number 10, having a pretty good showing. I mean, he wasn't in there for very long, but he did come out at number 10 and took it to Braun Strowman and Sami Zayn kind of teaming up at one point. So a Dillinger-Sami Zayn tag team, I can get behind that. That's not a bad tag team. So they worked well together. Out at number 11, another surprise entrant, not really that good of a surprise entrant, was James Ellsworth. Obviously, Ellsworth and Strowman had their history from when Ellsworth debuted on Raw in July of 2016. He also kind of was partly responsible for Strowman getting eliminated in the Survivor Series main event a few months prior to this. So Strowman wanted some revenge. And he also attacked, Ellsworth at the end of that match. He put him through a fucking commentary table. Strowman has given Ellsworth a lot of punishment in their various encounters, and this was no exception. So Ellsworth is out at number 11. Dean Ambrose is out at number 12. And Ellsworth, before Ambrose comes out, does not enter the ring. And Ambrose and Ellsworth, obviously, having their history from late 2016 when James Ellsworth turned on Dean Ambrose. So Ambrose kind of acting like, oh, they're still friends here. He's like, let's go in together. Come on, let's tackle Braun together. He's like, okay. So when on your mark, get set, 1, 2, 3, go. Whatever, 3, 2, 1. Whatever. I'm fucking it up, I know. So they go in, they race into the ring together, seemingly. Ambrose does not go in. He stops himself. Ellsworth runs in anyway, immediately gets attacked by Braun Strowman. So Strowman takes him up in the air, chokeslams him to hell over the top rope and onto the floor. That looked like it sucked. That was terrible. A terrible bump to take. I mean, it looked awesome, don't get me wrong, but it's like I did not envy Ellsworth. I wouldn't envy Ellsworth anyway, but I did not envy Ellsworth, especially in that moment when he took that chokeslam onto the floor. That looked fucking brutal. Holy shit. So anyway, Ambrose enters. He was in there for a while, just about a half hour. Corbin out at number 13, also a very good showing. They all team up, all these guys, on Braun Strowman. Corbin takes out Braun Strowman. Sami Zayn getting a measure of revenge here. He hits the haluva kick, and then Corbin follows that up with a clothesline. So out goes Strowman, which led to a big pop. Because I don't know if people thought Strowman would win, but they thought he would be there until the end. He kind of teased going after Undertaker and going after, a few people, including Goldberg. We never got that, unfortunately, not at least in the Rumble match. So I thought he had a good showing for as long as he was in there. Probably should have lasted longer, but it gave Corbin a nice boost, even though it really wouldn't do much for his stock in the company. But Corbin lasted a while in this match. Him and Ambrose going at it, and they would obviously have their WrestleMania match a few months later for the Intercontinental Championship, so kind of planting the seeds for that encounter. Kofi Kingston out at number 14. So his big Rumble spot this year in 2017 was not amazingly impressive, but it was still kind of cool. So I think it was Corbin. He pushed Kingston onto the ring post, which really wasn't a ring post. It was one of the LED posts. And he went stomach first. He impaled himself onto the ring post, and he hung on. And then he got back in the ring. So again, not super impressive, but still kind of cool in the annual Kofi Kingston spot in the Rumble match. So I'm not sure what he's going to do this year. I'm excited to find out, though. Out at number 15, The Miz, all still lasting a while. He was my pick to win, or someone who I thought should have won. Maybe not would have won, but I thought he should have won. He was in there for a while, having a very good showing. Sheamus out at 16, Big E out at 17, so he was my favorite in my Royal Rumble game for 2017. Not a bad pick to have. Rusev out at number 18, handsome Rusev, and at this point the bodies just keep on piling up and piling up and piling up, because everyone at this point is just waiting for the legends, because it was already announced that Lesnar, Goldberg, and Undertaker were going to be in the Rumble. It was just a matter of when. So people are waiting, kind of getting a little anxious here. So Cesaro's in at number 19, followed by Xavier Woods. Sheamus, Cesaro, and The New Day all have their history from their Raw Tag Team title encounters, their championship encounters in late 2016. So they go at each other. In the end, Cesaro and Sheamus eliminating all of The New Day at once. And it was going to be interesting to see how The New Day would win, if they could win the Royal Rumble, like who would get the title shot. That would have been kind of cool. Obviously wasn't going to happen. They get tossed out, and then Sheamus and Cesaro immediately get tossed out as well. I forgot by who. I think it says, Chris Jericho. Jericho enters the fray after being out for like a fucking half hour. He comes back in, and they toss out Cesaro and Sheamus after Cesaro teases, I think, tossing out Sheamus. Or I think it was Sheamus who got tossed out by Cesaro or whatever. Or he was going to toss him out. He didn't go through with it. I think that's what it was. And then Jericho tosses them both out. Kind of like playing off what the Shield had done in early 2014 in the Royal Rumble match, where I think it was Ambrose trying to toss out both Rollins and Reigns, or just one of them, and teasing tension within the group. And a lot like that moment, this also went nowhere. I thought, maybe Cesaro and Sheamus would break up again and start the feud again, but no, it was more of a Team Hell No moment where during the course of their tag team, only really teasing tension because initially they did not like each other. Because other than that, they went back to being on the same page and regaining the Raw Tag Team titles another 2 times in the remainder of 2017. So out at number 21, this is when we really got into the star power for the most part. Bray Wyatt, who was kind of riding a wave of momentum for a little while coming into the Rumble. He had won at No Mercy. He won at Survivor Series. He won the tag team titles at TLC, which he lost 2 or 3 weeks later, but whatever. So Bray Wyatt entering the fray. Apollo Crews out at number 22. Did not last all that long at all before getting taken out by Luke Harper, who came out at 25. Randy Orton out at 23. Dolph Ziggler out at 24. Orton and Wyatt and Harper. This is what I really, really liked about this match. I think Harper was out at 25, not 26. I might have said 26. I think he was out at 25. So another story being told coming into the Rumble was with Wyatt, Harper, and Orton. Seemingly a cohesive unit, but it was kind of the tension teased with the Orton and Harper that cost them the SmackDown Tag Team titles. So Orton and Harper were going at it coming into the pay-per-view, and as a result of those two going at it, Luke Harper also teased tension with Bray Wyatt. So by this point, they were pretty much broken up. It was only really Bray Wyatt and Orton by this point, but Harper was kind of sort of connected to the Wyatt family. I think Wyatt laid him out on an episode of SmackDown before the pay-per-view, so that to me kind of told me that he was done with the family. So anyway, Harper and Orton are going at it. Wyatt's trying to play peacemaker. Harper lays him out. The crowd goes fucking nuts. The crowd went nuts for that. He lays out Wyatt with a clothesline, takes the fight to Randy Orton, ultimately getting dropped by an RKO. And he was about to do the Sister Abigail to Bray Wyatt before Orton drops him with the RKO. Again, great spot. The crowd went nuts, thinking that Bray Wyatt was going to fall to his own move at the hands of his own disciple by the man who brought him into the company to begin with. So again, awesome stuff. I thought that was really, really, really well done. And then obviously Harper getting tossed out, and a few minutes later, it should have been by Orton or Wyatt, but instead he got tossed out by Goldberg. So before we even got to Goldberg, we had Brock Lesnar out at 26. Brock Lesnar tossing out a bunch of people, including Dean Ambrose, and just Dolph Ziggler also was a victim of Brock Lesnar when he got taken out. When Brock Lesnar entered the matchup. So Lesnar, like a bat out of hell after getting embarrassed at the Survivor Series pay-per-view. And I'll talk about Lesnar, Goldberg, and Taker entering a little later on than they should have in a minute. I'll talk about that at the end. So Lesnar comes in, out at 27. By this point, people are keeping track, like, okay, we only have so many surprise entrants left. Because they left about like 5 or 6 or 7 spots open for surprise entrants. And by this point, people figured out, okay, we still have Goldberg, we still have Taker, but who else is left? We got 2 spots. And then at fucking 27, we get Enzo Amore, which, you know what, by this point, people still liked Enzo. He was still kind of over. I mean, they got a big reaction when him and Cass came out at number 1. But again, Cass already came out at number 1. We already got the big pop with those 2. We already got to see Enzo. He wasn't in the match. But Big Cass was all we needed. We didn't need fucking Enzo Amore in the match. We already got our comic relief with Jack Gallagher earlier on and a few other stuff. We did not need Enzo Amore because he goes in there. Brock Lesnar was the only man left standing. A lot of people were hoping it was going to be Kurt Angle or something because Brock Lesnar was the only man left standing amongst the carnage. And out comes fucking Enzo Amore, who gets tossed out in 18 seconds by the Beast. What the fuck was the point of that? So people are kind of getting pissed off at this point. Thankfully, Goldberg comes out. He immediately spears Brock Lesnar. They go face to face, spears him, clotheslines him over the top rope. So Lesnar again humiliated at the hands of Goldberg, furthering their feud. Then Goldberg takes out a few more people, including Luke Harper. He also took out Rusev. So in the end, Undertaker comes out at number 29, the only other confirmed entrant in the Rumble, before we get to the dreaded number 30 in a moment. So Taker comes out. He tosses out Miz like a sack of trash, tosses out Baron Corbin like they're fucking nothing. Like they're nothing. So I was kind of pissed off about that. And I like Undertaker, but the guy he did not look good here at all. He took out Sami Zayn. The guy looked like shit. So he lays out Goldberg with, I think he got speared by Goldberg. Goldberg took somebody else out. And then Taker took out Goldberg. So that was kind of a cool moment to see Goldberg and Taker in there mixing it up. But it made the rest of the roster look like fucking losers. Because Sami Zayn and Miz were two guys I thought could have realistically won it. I mean, Undertaker too. But still, he looked like shit here. He did not look good at all. So Taker tosses out Goldberg. We're left with like the final few. We got Taker in there. We got Chris Jericho in there. We got a few people left standing. Coming out at number 30, none other than your favorite wrestler and mine, Roman Reigns. And again, I don't hate Roman Reigns. He's not my favorite, but I don't hate Roman Reigns. But he comes out at number 30, and the place just showers him with boos, as they should have. There's a very video of me reacting to this news, because I thought it would be Kurt Angle, Finn Balor, fucking anyone else but Roman Reigns. Anyone but you, Roman. Anyone but you, as Bray Wyatt used to say. I thought it could be Samoa Joe. I was hoping for Samoa Joe. I was wearing my Samoa Joe shirt. I was hoping for Samoa Joe. Instead, we got Roman Reigns coming out at number 30, despite the fact he was already in contention for the Universal Championship earlier on in the evening. Now, I know people can still be in the Rumble, despite going for titles or being in other matches at other points in the show. But still, I know why they did this, because in the end, first of all, he eliminated The Undertaker, which also got huge boos. People were fucking pissed off about that. So it came down to Roman, and he also tossed out Jericho, who to me was another realistic choice to win the Rumble. He gets dumped out by Roman Reigns. So we get down to Roman Reigns, Bray Wyatt, and Randy Orton. I'm thinking, okay, Wyatt could win this, and I know we're going to get Wyatt and Orton at WrestleMania. I get it, but I don't want Orton to be, the Rumble winner, which he was. Wyatt got tossed out, and then Roman Reigns going for a spear on Orton, gets hit by an RKO. Reigns pops back up, delirious. Orton tosses him out. He wins the Royal Rumble for the second time in his career. So people cheered this. I got a big reaction, because usually Orton is pretty popular. I thought he was doing some great work with the Wyatt family stuff. But still, it's Randy fucking Orton. The guy debuted 15 years prior to this. Was there really a reason for him to win the Rumble? Him and Wyatt, first of all, should not have been a main event match at WrestleMania. Like, that kind of speaks for itself. Because their WrestleMania match was fucking terrible. And the feud after this was not all that good. After Elimination Chamber, their feud sucked. The match sucked. The House of Horror shit was not good either. I mean, it was entertaining to an extent, but it wasn't good. So people cheered because it wasn't Roman Reigns. That's what it was. If it wasn't Roman Reigns, let's say Orton tossed out Bray Wyatt, people would have booed. I can guarantee you the crowd would have booed if it was Wyatt getting tossed out by Randy Orton and not Roman Reigns. I can guarantee you of that. So again, it wasn't Goldberg, it wasn't Lesnar. It could have been a lot worse with whoever won the Rumble. But it still was not ideal. This was fucking stupid. Because Orton, again, in retrospect at the time, again, it was an overall really good Rumble, don't get me wrong. It just made no sense that if it was a random draw, why did Lesnar, Goldberg, and Taker all come out in the final, 5 spots? That was kind of silly and a little dumb. And people were saying, oh, there were no surprises. I mean, we got some surprises, not good ones. Ty Dillinger, I thought was great. I thought that was awesome. Definitely one of the better parts of the match. We got Jack Gallagher in there for whatever it was worth. Again, no big returns or anything, but it was what it was. I feel like Finn Balor would have won it if he was cleared to compete. He wasn't. And Joe came out the next night, so it all really worked out in the end. And it probably worked out for Joe, too, because if Joe wasn't going to win, then he might as well have, debuted the next night on Raw and attacked Seth Rollins the way that he did, because he made a huge impact that way as well. So I was totally fine with that. The overall Rumble, I thought was pretty good. Orton, I would not have gone with, which is why it cracks me up when people say, oh, I want John Cena to win the Rumble this year. I wouldn't complain. Ha ha ha. It's like people. We've had the same fucking people win this thing for the last 5 years. John Cena won it for a second time in 2013. Predictable as all hell. 2014, won by Batista for the second time, which was also predictable as all hell. Roman Reigns won it in 2015, a fresh face, but it was one of the worst Rumbles of all time. 2016, won by Triple H. 2017, won by Randy Orton. Why the fuck are all these Rumbles being won by former Evolution members? Should I expect Ric Flair to win in this year? Should I expect him to come out at number 30 and win the Royal Rumble and go on to challenge John Cena to break his record, break his own record for most World Championship wins in WWE? It's like, we need someone new, which is why I say Shinsuke Nakamura. Oh, it's too predictable. It's like, fuck you. Who cares if it's too predictable? We've had predictable people win in the past. That hasn't stopped the company from doing that. With Batista and Triple H, John Cena. That's a whole other topic for another day. But at least Orton, you know what? To their credit, wasn't predictable. So if you like unpredictable people winning it, maybe you like this Rumble more, the Rumble outcome more. I wasn't a big fan because I really thought it should have gone to... I mean, Jericho, again, is not a fresh face by any means, but at least he hasn't won a Rumble before. And Orton and Wyatt was far worse than Owens and Jericho. Owens and Jericho had a really good match at WrestleMania last year, I thought, and would have been a way better world title match at WrestleMania than Orton and Wyatt. Now, I know the Universal title match would have been Owens and Jericho, and that instead went to Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, which I wasn't hyped for going in, but the match was also really, really good, as it turned out. So again, overall, I thought this was a good Rumble. Way better than 2014 to 2015. Multiple stories told, which is, to me, what makes a good Rumble. And the outcome was not as worse as it could have been. Still not high on it, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been. In retrospect, the wrong person to go with, because the story with Ambrose, or with, I was looking at Ambrose's name right now, that's why I said that. Orton and Wyatt was really not that good coming out of the show. It was going into the show, not coming out of it. So, anyway, we'll see what the 2018 Rumble has in store. I hope it's better. But the overall show I thought was great. Again, don't get me wrong. I thought the overall Rumble was really, really good. The opening match with Charlotte and Bayley was excellent. Owens and Reigns, again, having a really, really good match over the Universal Championship. Neville and Swan having one of the better Cruiserweight matches I've seen in quite some time. Probably ever, in recent memory since they rebooted the Cruiserweight division. Cena and AJ with one of the best matches all year. In WWE's opinion, their match of the year. I don't know if I would say that, but it comes close. It's easily top 3 in my opinion. And then the Rumble match itself was also very good. So definitely check out the 2017 Royal Rumble ahead of this year's installment coming up this Sunday. Checking the time right now, we're running over 40 minutes. And one of my longer pay-per-view reviews I've done in a while. I've done a few that's around 40 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever. There's just a lot to talk about when it comes to Rumble pay-per-views, and especially this one. So again, overall, great show. Definitely check it out on the WWE Network before the Royal Rumble 2018 this Sunday. Speaking of which, guys, once again, I will have plenty more content in regards to the Rumble in the coming days right here on the channel, so be sure to subscribe. You'll be notified when the new videos go up right here on the channel. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, and share the video. All that stuff is amazingly appreciated. Check me out on social media. All the links are down below in the description box. And I'll be back right here on WrestleRant next Tuesday with another review of a TNA pay-per-view as seen on the Global Wrestling Network from 2004. Until then, guys, have an awesome Royal Rumble weekend. Enjoy the event. I'll give my full analysis of the event and being there in attendance next week here in the channel. I'm Graham Giuseppe Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road to WrestleMania.